Discord. I'm going to do that really quick. Okay, so always having some applicants and interviews completed in your back pocket. I think that's a really good note for sure. Curry, I know
Having them on the
know,
staff. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah,
That's
and
what
the
she
other
meant, I
thing
think.
is like, yeah, because as soon as these October months come, the issue will start happening. The kids will have their semester exams and all that starting in. So these, all the youngsters, like the 12th grader, 11th, 12th grader, their exams, because they just went in, there's no test and all that going on. But soon this assignments and everything start coming in, and then they'll start backing off.
Neha, did you have something you wanted to add?
I'm sorry, I was having trouble unmuting that. No, so I just thought that I think what she meant was that overstaff and then schedule them 1 day a week if you need to, rather than 2 or 3 days. Then have like 4 or 5 people that you really rely on, and then you schedule them every day. And I am prone to agreeing. So for instance, today I've had 4 people tell me they can't come in, and I absolutely know it's because they have homework and a quiz tomorrow. All 4 of them. So definitely, overstaffing, that's maybe the reason I'm a little less stressed this year, that I'm overstaffed. And I don't feel guilty anymore. I used to, about not giving them enough hours. But I really don't, because I have seen as the year goes on, they want hours during the summer when it suits them, but they don't really, if you really, really need the hours, then you will prioritize that even over homework. And I do have students who are, in a space where they need to help out the family. And so you will see whether they have homework or not, they'll sit a little late into the night and burn the midnight oil, but they will not miss a day of work because they need that money at the end of the month. So I've stopped feeling guilty. I schedule them when I want to schedule them. And I overstaff, and that has helped this year.
Another thing I heard about from Curry actually during my calls about the surveys and everything is that, and Curry, you might want to explain this a little bit more, but paying differently based off of how many days they work. I don't know if you're available, Curry, but do you want to talk about that a little bit? So I'll spoil it then.
I'm back.
Here you are. Okay, perfect. So you pay employees differently based off how many days they work. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So what I do is, I have where, like, for my employees that only work 2 days a week, once they complete the training, I keep their salary at $10 an hour. But for some of my staff that are my 4-dayers, they're at $12 an hour. And so I use that kind of as an incentive. But I think as of now, where I have staff that are, and I'll use the term flaky. They're not, they have these, oh, this came up at the last minute, and things happen. But if it's consistently every week that things just happen to pop up, then one of the things that I'm doing is looking at bumping them down to 2 days a week, and then I'll bump their salary down commensurate with the number of hours they're doing. And that way it helps to kind of just, obviously they're not going to be happy about it, but having them understand that when you reach out to me at the last minute and say I can't make it, and you only reach out to me, but you don't reach out to your team, then it puts the whole team in a situation where we then have to do 1-2 shuffle, and you're able to kind of go and do the things you want, and you haven't really given your team a heads up. So
yeah, I thought that was a really interesting system. So I don't know if y'all have any questions about that. I know another issue Neha had mentioned is high school versus college students. And, obviously there are pros and cons to both, but does anybody have experience with both or either that you want to talk about?
I think to what Curry said, not so much the point that you brought up that I mentioned. I do the same thing in terms of incentive, but what I do is I do it with hours. So there's quite a few of them who want to pull out but want to work more hours. I simply tell them that when I'm scheduling, you are last on my priority list. So in some weeks, maybe you'll work once. if I need you, maybe you'll work thrice. But I do it also based on whether they have early release or not. And when I hire them, I actually tell them that first I try not to hire if they don't have early release at least one of the days, but sometimes I'm forced to. So because I need more people. And so then at that point, I'll tell them that, hey, you're going to come in at 5 and I can't hire somebody just from 4 to 5. So you're at the bottom of my priority list. So great if I can give you 2 days, but there are days that I'll just, weeks that I'll just give you 1 day a week. And 3 days, your week may not even be practical, considering that you'll come in at 5. And for the most part, they are okay with it, because students who don't have early release usually also have more school workload. They're usually sophomores. So as I said, they're at the bottom of my list, but I use time rather than, bumping them down or up, because that I haven't done. I need to try this. Actually, Curry's idea is a good one with money.
Yeah. I think the tricky part is you just got to be strict about it, right, Curry? You got to be willing to take those days away and not be dependent.
Yeah. And that's where I think, I want, what I did, Neha, is this. We had a discussion about, hey, letting your team, a heads up. And so we're actually going to probably have just a group meeting after we close next Saturday. And we're gonna, I can't, for with this generation, I have to be very direct. I can kind of say, I can kind of talk around it, but I can just be very direct and say, hey, some of you guys, and everybody will know who, or I can't consistently depend on. And so here's what I'm thinking about implementing. Tell me what your thoughts are. And then at that point, I know there will be crickets. And my thing is, think about it. And then let me know how you feel. Send me a text personally as to how you feel. But I give them the opportunity to autocorrect first. Much like when we, on the whole cell phone issue, I've given them the opportunity to autocorrect first. And then when they don't autocorrect, then I'm the bad guy. But I always tell them, I gave you the opportunity first. So.
Yeah. And that's another
that
thing
makes a lot of sense.
Oh, go ahead, Neha. Sorry.
No, I said that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
I was going to bring up, I think multiple people brought up issues with phones and their staff on calls. Does anybody have a system that's working? Victor, do you collect phones or anything like that?
Not collect. There's a spot. There's like a designated spot, and I bought this thing off Amazon. Like, you can charge like 6 phones. So I kind of put like a designated spot in your charging ports there, and say, when you come to the center, this is like, your cubicle where you put your stuff, and then your phones are all going to be here, and you can charge them, but no phones on your pocket. The other thing that I've done is also I've kind of recorded a video session of one of the meetings I've done and talked about, like, okay, what does it mean if you have your phone and you're working with a student? Because the reality is, it just means you don't care. And that's not the culture that we're trying to implement here. I want you to care for the student. Agreed. And if you are doing something like that, basically you're not adhering to the standards or the culture that we're setting up here. So perhaps that means that you don't want to be here anymore. Or I'm basically telling them, like, look, if you don't care about the kids, it's kind of hard for me to continue to, maybe this job is not for you, right? It's you started and say, then we have that conversation if it's not for you. But I'm looking for people who cares about working with students. And I've interviewed you, and I remember, I'm pretty sure all of them say, yeah, they enjoy working with kids and they care about kids. So what's going on now, right? So that's the point I made. Because I have the recording, I made all the new staff kind of watch that video. And then on the handbook, I have a spot where no phones, and phones have to be in the cubicle. And then yeah, I mean, thankfully, I think all of us, we have enough stuff now that I don't have to put up with the ones that are, after 2 or 3 warnings, they still they still don't adhere to that policy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But Victor, I have a question. Like, I know what you're saying, like the tutors. In my center, the problem is not the tutors, the students. The second graders are walking in with the phones, and you won't imagine how many times I've taken the phones and they keep chatting and they are doing especially fourth, fifth graders, seventh graders, eighth graders. They are on their phone and they are doing the Snapchat. And if I say something, they'll get up and they go in the bathroom for 10 minutes. I have told the parents, I have taken the phones away, but my moms, they tell me, oh, they don't feel safe because they are taking the phones to the school. So they know, Miss Divya, we are okay with him. And I have told the parents. So at this point, my major issue is the tutors keep telling me, Miss Divya, he's chatting with his friends on the phone. I don't know, means like literally 80% of my kids are carrying the phones, and I have spoken to the parents. There's no cell phone policy on the table, but they are saying, no, sometimes, Miss Divya, I'm only coordinating with the babysitter who's gonna pick him and pick him or pick them drop or drop off or pick up. I don't know. At this point, I'm frustrated at the students rather than the tutors. I don't know anybody is dealing with that problem. Your parents and my parents are not supportive, and they are saying, no, we just give because there's a lot of coordination. Because every day the pickup drop off changes. My friend is picking, their uncle is picking, their babysitter is picking. So I don't know anybody is dealing that, or I only deal with the rich moms. I don't know.
So Divya,
Literally the first, second graders are walking with the phone and they just told me, oh, Miss Divya, see, my mom got me a new phone.
I have okay, I think I don't know, I speak for everybody. It's like, Divya, you definitely have the most unique stories. And
I know,
you
Victor.
have a trendsetter on that front. I mean, yeah, I don't have, I think the only person who has a cell phone at my center with regards to students is I have a 8th grader who has a cell phone, and I mean there are some fourth or 5th grader that has it, but they would not. I mean, I haven't seen them take out and do and use it while they're working at the table yet. So yeah, I don't have that problem. I mean, likewise, just like what you're doing, I would have talked to the parent and say, look, I mean, they can come here and spend time looking at their phones, and you're going to get upset with me and wondering why they're not progressing. And I've already told you they spend half the time on their phones. So it's one of those things I can control. I can control my employees because I pay them.
Yeah.
I can't really control the kids. I mean, that's like the parents' responsibilities. And then if they're okay with it, and I'm telling you, they're here for 40 minutes, 20 minutes, they're on their phone. So essentially, you're really paying for them for 20 minutes, and they're spending the rest of half the time just playing with their
That's
phone.
what
So
I'm
which is,
saying, Victor. Like, I
yeah.
have told the parents, and then there's one kid, like multiple. And what the mom said, usually the babysitter is late, okay, to pick him up. And she always, it's okay, Miss Divya, I just put the game so after the work, he can play. And the problem with that kid is he just rushed through the work so much. And I've told the mom, she says, I understand your concern, but Miss Divya, me and my husband are like, we are working day and night. And yeah, I will definitely look into it. When I get such, and she's fine with it, she's fine. But she always tells me, "Oh, Tyler is progressing so well, so you don't worry about it. He's doing great."
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think on that front, I mean, Divya, again, I don't know where you find these parents. Thankfully, they don't come to my center. But I think
do have a
what you
policy
have
regarding
done,
this, sir.
what
Sorry,
you
go
have
ahead,
done,
Victor. I didn't finish.
I mean, Divya, what you have done is all that you could do. I mean, if you tell the parent and they're okay with it and they're still seeing progress, yes, and that's all you could do. Yeah.
Neha, did you want to go?
So there are quite a few students at my center with phones, young and old, and I actually had them put it away in the book box. And it is one of the poor tutor's job to keep an eye on that. I mean, usually I've told all my tutors, if you see somebody with a phone in their hand, you have to ask them to put it away in their book box. It has to be in their book box, or it cannot be here, it can be with me. And so they do, and it usually goes away into the book box. Having said that, I had a very interesting incident yesterday, which did upset me. And I was going to bring that up later as a separate incident, where the person on the front desk had walked away to the restroom for 2 seconds. And this child walked out and didn't walk too far, walked around the corner and was trying to call his dad, and couldn't get through, and was crying, like crying loudly outside the center.
Ouch!
And it was scary. Honestly, it was scary to me because this kid is like in 4th grade or something, and he has that phone because he needs to coordinate. His parents are separated, and he needs to coordinate with his dad. And I actually panicked enough where I'm usually not good with parents. I called the mom and I called the dad, and I did mention to them. I was like, well, and they said, well, the T-Mobile, something, we need to fix his phone. It had run out and he couldn't call. So I can see why sometimes they really do need the phone. I mean, this was a separate situation. It was a scary situation. He walked out. It could have been. But luckily, there's like tons of parents who sit outside and wait for their kids in the car. And one of them came in to tell me that this child was outside, and I went and fetched him. But so I don't want to kind of take the phones away from the kids for sure. And then there are a couple of older students. Sorry, go ahead.
Don't you have a center phone? Because my kids, so that if they need to call their parents, they use the center's phone to call the parents.
Yeah.
Good point.
So this is not a child who necessarily, and honestly, I wouldn't even give them the access. But yes, it's not about the center phone. It's more about, can you imagine how many kids I would have coming up and saying, we need to call our parents? I mean, and they do, by the way. And my system is I text the parents the moment they come out and they're waiting for more than 5 minutes. I will text the parents to say, can you please pick your kid up?
Well, so you can have a separate phone. I know Capel has that because that was an issue, and we don't want the kids to have their own phone. So, I mean, it's a landline. It's got a cord connected to, like, I think the computer.
That's actually a good idea, though. That's
Yeah.
Allison, I have a separate phone. I have my cell phone. I give them, but this generation parents are telling them their cell phones. Can you believe it? When the kids, like that day before yesterday, a 6th grader came to me, and she was not on schedule, and she suddenly showed up because it was Monday. So I had told her, like, you need to go back. So she was calling her dad because her dad number is stored in my phone. Okay. So she said, Miss Divya, my dad is not picking, and she's a 6th grader. So I said, it's okay, sweetie, you can call your mom. So she said, I don't know my mom's number. And I said, you are in 6th grade. She said, yeah. And then dad walks in, and what he told me, my wife doesn't even have a cell phone. Can you believe it? And the daughter, 6th grader, doesn't know that. So today's generation, we are talking that we have a separate line. I have a separate line. I have my cell phone. I always give them. But these kids, they don't know. And the problem is, Victor, the biggest issue is because they themselves don't know. Today, are they dealing with the babysitter or the aunt who's going to pick them? So that is a bigger issue, because nowadays parents are all over the place. So that is one thing when parents come and tell me they have to have, because we text them the number, call this person, so you'll get picked up.
So I obviously am not dealing with this issue because I don't have as many students, and mine are young right now. None of them have cell phones. But as my experience as a teacher, I worked at a school where we had no cell phone policy for middle school. And, students were always, well, what if my mom needs to get a hold of me? What if I need to talk to my dad? What if, they can call the front office. Yep. They have, like, what did they do when I was a kid? My parents contacted the front office, so I think that idea of having a center phone and just making it clear, like, this is our cell phone policy. You are paying me to educate your child. If you want that to happen, I need them off the phone and focused on what we're learning, which is, I know, easier said than done with some of those parents.
Well, and I'll just add too, on that whole pickup thing. One of the things that I've done in Jackrabbit is when the new parent signs up, if anybody other than that child's parents is going to be picking them up, they have to give me a unique code.
Mhm.
that parent has to give me that, whoever's picking that child up has to be in Jackrabbit, and they have to give me that code. If I haven't seen that parent, then to me, it's just a little extra piece of insurance, because especially where you have families where there's a divorce, that gets just messy.
Mhm.
And we have a couple families where it's a divorce, and I will tell the parent, give me that code, or give you guys tell me who is picking Susie up, or who's allowed to pick Susie up. And Susie can't just run out to her car, because we make sure that the front desk staff walks them out to the car if a parent's not coming up.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just an extra piece of insurance in Jackrabbit to do that.
And I think you also hit the nail on the head. Having a front desk person, I mean, it is so helpful, because
Oh
like
my
what Neha
God.
was saying, sometimes these kids, they just go,
Yep.
they just don't live in the same kind of world sometimes,
They
and
really
they just
don't.
have their mindset that this is what they're going to do, and they go do it. And if nobody's watching that front door, nobody's watching that front door. And
Yep.
so I think investing in a front desk assistant or something, a check-in person,
Yeah.
just to be there, I think that's really useful, especially as things get busy in the fall.
Yeah.
Neha, I'll come over to you, and then I think we're going to wrap it up pretty soon, because I do want to try to keep this as close to 30 minutes as possible.
Can I have one suggestion regarding the safety? I've added like a latch on my front door, that if the receptionists have to go on back and bathroom break or anything like that, she will latch the front door. I mean, I need to make it high enough because now the fourth grader can reach it. So it's high enough that the younger kids can reach it. It's opening and closing. Previously, I use a key to lock it. So that's one thing you can do.
Sure.
That's a good idea, actually. I think we might do that.
Hey, Victor.
Big latch.
Well, and now, and it's good you mentioned it, Victor, because I'm holding up a key card. We just had I just had ADT, and I'm a little paranoid about the Uvalde situation. That just messed with me. And so one of the things that we did, because we have a busy parking lot, there's a dance studio down the street, and unfortunately, we have somewhat of a homeless population that frequent the Garland area. So what we've done is we put a ADT and installed a badging system. So each of my staff have a badge that they have to badge themselves in when they come in. But when they come in, that door locks behind them. So a parent or a kid, they can't just walk in. They have to be buzzed in. And then that way, if one of us leaves away, there's a door release on both walls, where if the tutor knows that it's a parent and they've seen that parent, they can badge them in, and it allows us to be mobile around the center. And I'm finding that it's a game changer, especially as it just gets to, with all these weird things that are happening with respect to school safety. So
yeah. Neha, last word for you.
No, there was just a different situation that I did want to bring up. I have two students at my center whom I actually know they have their phones and whom I do allow. In fact, they have their headphones because one of them has severe anxiety and she just works better when she is listening to, very specific music. And the other one just happens to be a high schooler who's checked with me and said, Miss Neha, I do better math when I'm doing listening to music. And so in these two kids' cases, I have allowed them to have their phone on hand. And they do have headphones on and they work and they're doing well. So, and to, I can't recall who brought this up, but actually Katie, I think did. But the funny thing is that this thing about, you know what, they can call me and I'm the emergency contact your parents. I've had to say this to all my instructors, not to my students, because they're the ones who were like, oh, well, if we put our phone away, what if our parents are trying to get in touch with us? I was like, well, here I am, and here's my number, and they can always call me. I'm right next to you. So yeah. But that has worked because I actually did get a call from a parent day before yesterday saying, oh, I'm trying to reach such and such and he's not picking up. I was like, yeah, because he's working.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Well, before I do my announcements, I forgot to have everybody go around and introduce themselves since we do have Katie on here for the first time. So if we could each just really quickly go around and say our names, where our center is, and how long you've been a Gideon Center owner. I'd love that. Victor, do you want to get started?
Oh, hi, my name is Victor Su. I am at the center in South Lake.
Awesome.
What was the other question? How long?
How long you've been an owner?
Oh, the center has been around for about 13, 14, going to 14 years. I've owned it only for the past 3.5.
Awesome. Okay. Curry, do you want to go next?
Sorry about that. I was on mute. Curry Jones, on this center in Garland, and this is a year and about 3 months.
Awesome. Divya? Divya, do you want to go next? All right, we'll circle back to Divya. Neha, do you want to go?
Sure. So I'm Neha Mehrotra and I own the center in Prosper. And I think it's been 2.5 years. In Jan, it'll be 3, I think, almost a little over 2.5 years, yes.
Awesome. Okay. And Divya, are you available to introduce yourself? All right, Divya's in North McKinney, and I'll be honest, I don't know the years very well, but she is well seasoned. So Katie, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to people individually. I think the Facebook group and everything's available. Oh, Katie, you introduced yourself. Wow. Didn't think of that.
Yeah, hi, I'm Katie. So I have a center in Richardson at Coit and Campbell. We opened less than a month ago, and things are going really well right now.
Awesome. All right. Oh,
Sorry,
Divya?
yeah, listen. Yeah, sorry, Katie. Actually, I kept the phone and I was walking around. I could not find the phone. Sorry.
You're fine.
Yeah, so it's been 5 years. I'm going to complete my 5th year in January.
Awesome.
So this is my 5th year running. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Well, my quick announcement is going to be that we're going to have our next quarterly meeting in October. I was trying to remember the date off the top of my head, and I'm struggling to do that, but I know it's going to be mid-October. It will be on a Friday, kind of the midday thing that we've been doing for a while. And so if you have anything specific you want us to go over, the main topic will most likely be going over the findings from the annual surveys, talking about general themes and trends that I got from everybody, and just having a slightly small group discussion over those to get any more feedback that we may need. So hopefully y'all can all join. Specific dates will be coming soon, now that we've got this huddle down, and then we'll pick up huddles again in November. So if you have any topics for November or October that you want to bring up, please let us know. And with that, I will let y'all get on with your Thursday. And thank you so much for joining.
Thanks, Allison.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, Alison. Thank everybody.
Y'all have a good
Thank
one.
you.